My precious child, stop scrolling and listen carefully. Do not allow this moment to pass you by. What I am about to tell you is something your heart has needed to hear for a very long time. I did not bring you here by accident. I did not allow these words to reach you without purpose. There is a reason you are hearing this message today, and there is a reason your spirit has been carrying a strange mixture of exhaustion and expectation. You have lost things, more than most people realize. Some losses were obvious. Others were hidden deep within your heart. People saw you continue moving forward, but they did not see what was taken from you along the way. They did not see the dreams you quietly buried. They did not see the opportunities that slipped through your fingers. They did not see the trust that was broken. They did not see the nights you spent wondering why life had become so difficult. But I saw it all. I saw every moment. I saw every tear. I saw every disappointment. I saw every betrayal. And today I need you to understand something. Nothing escaped my notice. There were times when you felt robbed. Robbed of peace. Robbed of joy. Robbed of opportunities. Robbed of years. Robbed of relationships. Robbed of confidence. You watched certain people walk away carrying pieces of your heart. You watched situations unfold that seemed unfair. You watched doors close that you prayed would remain open. And for a long time, you asked the same question. Why? Why did this happen? Why was this allowed? Why did it feel like others were taking from you while you were left trying to rebuild? My child, I heard those questions. I heard them in your prayers. I heard them in your silence. I heard them in the moments when frustration became too heavy to hide. And that is why I am speaking now, because there is a truth you have not fully understood. What was taken from you was never greater than what I have prepared for you. Listen carefully. The enemy wanted your losses to become your identity. He wanted you to define yourself by what went wrong. He wanted you to spend your future mourning your past. He wanted disappointment to become your permanent address. But I never intended for your story to end in loss. I never intended for your pain to have the final word. I never intended for your setbacks to define your destiny. You have spent too much time looking at what disappeared. I want you to begin looking at what remains. Because despite everything that happened, you are still here. You are still standing. You are still believing. You are still searching for my voice. And that alone is evidence that I have been sustaining you through every battle. Think about everything that tried to destroy your faith. Think about every season that tested your strength. Think about every disappointment that told you to give up. Yet somehow, despite all of it, you are still moving forward. That is not an accident, that is my hand upon your life. My child, there is a reason the enemy worked so hard to take things from you. There is a reason certain battles seemed unusually intense. There is a reason certain losses hurt more deeply than others. The enemy attacks what carries value. He targets what carries purpose. He tries to steal from those who are moving toward something greater. But what he never understands is this. I am the God of restoration. I am the God who rebuilds. I am the God who takes broken pieces and creates something stronger than before. What looks lost to you is not lost to me. What looks impossible to restore is not impossible for me. What appears finished is not always finished. Stay with me because this is important. For a long time, you believed restoration meant getting back exactly what you lost. You thought restoration meant returning to the way things used to be. But my child, my restoration is often greater than replacement. I do not simply return things. I redeem seasons, I redeem mistakes, I redeem pain, I redeem years. Sometimes I give back what was lost. Sometimes I bring something far greater. Something you never expected. Something you never imagined. Something that makes you understand why certain chapters had to close before new ones could begin. You cannot see the full picture yet. You are still looking at individual pieces. I am looking at the entire story. That relationship you lost. That opportunity that disappeared. That season that broke your heart. Those moments were chapters. They were not the ending. The enemy convinced you they were endings, but they were transitions. Painful transitions. Confusing transitions. Unexpected transitions. but transitions nonetheless. And now another transition is approaching. A transition into a season where you begin seeing things differently. A season where you begin recognizing my hand in places where you once saw only disappointment. A season where answers begin appearing. A season where healing begins reaching places that have been hurting for years. I know it is difficult to believe sometimes. I know disappointment has made trust harder than it used to be. I know there are moments when hope feels risky. Because every time you hoped in the past, you feared being disappointed again. But do not allow yesterday's pain to determine tomorrow's possibilities. Do not allow old wounds to become permanent walls. Do not allow previous losses to convince you that restoration is impossible, because restoration is already moving toward you. Not someday, not eventually. Movement has already begun. You may not see it. You may not understand it. You may not have evidence yet. But movement has begun. The reason I brought you here today is because I want your heart prepared. Prepared to trust again, prepared to believe again, prepared to receive again. Because the season of only grieving what was lost is coming to an end, and the season of discovering what I preserved, what I protected, and what I prepared is beginning. But before you can fully understand the restoration that is coming, you must first understand something else. You must understand why certain things were allowed to be taken in the first place. Because there is a hidden truth behind your losses that you have never fully seen. And once you understand it, many of the questions you have carried for years will finally begin to make sense. Declare, God is restoring my life, if this message is speaking to your spirit. Stay with me, my child. Because in part 2, I will reveal why certain losses were permitted, what heaven was protecting you from, and why some things that left your life were never meant to stay. My precious child, stay with me. In the last part, I told you that before you can fully understand the restoration that is coming, you must first understand why certain things were allowed to leave your life. I told you there is a hidden truth behind many of your losses. Now I'm going to reveal that truth. Not everything that left you was stolen. Some things were removed. There is a difference. For years you have looked at certain endings and assumed they were failures. You looked at closed doors and called them losses. You looked at painful separations and called them tragedies. But my child, there were moments when my hand was protecting you while your heart believed it was being punished. You could only see what was leaving. I could see what was ahead. You could only see today's pain. I could see tomorrow's danger. You could only see the disappointment. I could see the destruction that would have followed had certain things remained. This is why I need you to trust me even when you do not fully understand me. There were people you begged me to keep in your life. People you loved. People you trusted. People you thought would always remain beside you. When they left, it felt like part of your future disappeared with them. You replayed conversations, you questioned yourself. You wondered what you could have done differently, you searched for answers. But my child, some people were connected to a season, not a destiny. They were assigned to a chapter, not the entire story. And when that chapter ended, their assignment ended with it. You viewed their departure as rejection, but many times it was redirection. You viewed it as loss, but often it was protection. Because not everyone who walks with you today can walk with you where I am taking you tomorrow. Stay with me because this truth may change the way you see your past. The enemy wanted you to spend years mourning people who were never meant to remain permanently. He wanted your focus trapped in yesterday. He wanted your heart chained to doors I had already closed. He wanted you staring at what left instead of preparing for what was coming. But my child, I never remove something without purpose. Even when you cannot see the reason, even when the process hurts, even when the answers seem hidden, purpose still exists. I know there are losses you still do not understand. There are moments that continue to raise questions. There are wounds that occasionally reopen when certain memories return. I know. I have seen every struggle. I have counted every tear. I have heard every question. And one day, many things that seem confusing now will become clear. You will look back and recognize that what felt like abandonment was actually protection. What felt like punishment was preparation. What felt like destruction was redirection. The enemy wanted to destroy your future. I was preserving it. Now let me reveal another truth. Some things were allowed to leave because they had become obstacles to where I was leading you. This may be difficult to hear, but not every blessing remains a blessing forever. Some opportunities become distractions. Some relationships become limitations. Some environments become prisons. And when I begin calling you into greater purpose, those things can no longer remain. The reason is simple. You cannot carry everything into your next season. Some things must stay behind. Some burdens must be released. Some attachments must be broken. Not because I want less for you, because I want more. My child, imagine trying to climb a mountain while carrying unnecessary weight. The higher you climb, the heavier the burden feels. The weight that seemed manageable at lower levels becomes exhausting at greater heights. That is why certain things had to leave. You were preparing for a higher place, and what served you yesterday could not always serve you tomorrow. The enemy never wanted you to understand this. He wanted you to interpret every loss as proof that your life was falling apart. But your life was not falling apart, it was being repositioned. Quietly, gradually, painfully at times, but purposefully. And now, as you stand where you are today, you are beginning to see evidence of that repositioning. You are stronger, wiser, more discerning, more aware of my voice, more aware of what truly matters. The person you are becoming could not have emerged without the process you walked through. Nothing was wasted, not the tears, not the heartbreak, not the waiting, not the confusion. I have used all of it, and this brings me to something very important. For a long time you believed restoration meant recovering what left. But what if I told you that some of the things you lost were never your final blessing? What if I told you that they were only temporary pieces leading you toward something greater? What if I told you that the reason certain doors closed was because they were too small for where I am taking you? My child, the future I have prepared is not built upon what was lost. It is built upon what I preserved. There are gifts I protected, dreams I protected, opportunities I protected, relationships I protected, blessings I protected. You could not always see them because your attention was focused on what disappeared. But heaven has been preserving things on your behalf. Things the enemy could not steal, things circumstances could not destroy, things delays could not cancel, things fear could not stop. And now the season is approaching when those preserved blessings will begin moving into view, not all at once, not overnight, but steadily, purposefully, according to my timing. My child, there is a reason your spirit has felt different recently. There is a reason hope keeps trying to return. There is a reason something inside you feels as though change is near. Because change is near. The season of only looking backward is ending. The season of looking forward is beginning. But before restoration becomes visible, there is one final misunderstanding I need to remove from your heart. Because there is something the enemy has lied to you about for years. A lie that has quietly stolen your peace, your confidence, and your expectation. And once that lie is exposed, you will understand why the restoration coming into your life is greater than anything you have imagined. Declare, God was protecting me all along, if this message is speaking to your spirit. Stay with me, my child, because in part 3 I will reveal the greatest lie the enemy told you about your losses and why your restoration is closer than you think. My precious child, stay with me. In the last part, I told you that before restoration becomes visible, there is a lie that must be exposed. A lie the enemy has repeated for years. A lie designed to steal your peace, weaken your faith, and convince you that your future is smaller than it really is. Today, I'm going to reveal that lie. The greatest lie the enemy told you is this. What was lost can never be restored. He whispered it after every disappointment. He whispered it after every betrayal. He whispered it after every closed door. He whispered it during every season of waiting. Slowly, quietly, repeatedly. He wanted that lie to become stronger than the truth. Because if you ever fully believed that restoration was possible, he would lose one of his greatest weapons against you. Think about how often that lie has appeared. When opportunities disappeared, the lie said it was over. When relationships ended, the lie said nothing good would replace them. When years passed without answers, the lie said you were running out of time. When dreams seemed delayed, the lie said they would never happen. The enemy wanted you measuring your future by your losses. But my child, your future has never been determined by what you lost. Your future is determined by what I have spoken. And what I speak cannot be canceled by disappointment. What I speak cannot be destroyed by delay. What I speak cannot be stolen by the enemy. My word remains. My promises remain. My plans remain. This is why I need you to stop viewing your life through the lens of scarcity. For too long you have been looking at what is gone. What if you began looking at what remains? You still have purpose. You still have value. You still have gifts. You still have potential. You still have a future. And most importantly, you still have me. The enemy wanted your attention trapped in the cemetery of yesterday. I am calling your attention toward the possibilities of tomorrow. Because tomorrow contains things you have not yet seen. Blessings you have not yet touched. Doors you have not yet walked through. People you have not yet met. Miracles you have not yet experienced. The story is larger than the chapter that hurt you. Stay with me because there is something deeper I need you to understand. The enemy's lie became powerful because pain gave it a place to live. When people suffer disappointment, they often begin protecting themselves from future hope. They tell themselves not to expect too much, not to believe too much, not to dream too much, not to trust too much. At first it feels like protection, but eventually it becomes a prison built from fear, a prison built from past experiences, a prison built from old wounds. My child, I never called you to live inside that prison. I called you to walk in freedom. Freedom to hope again, freedom to trust again, freedom to believe again, freedom to expect good things from me again, because fear was never meant to be your guide. Faith was. The enemy understands something very important. He knows that once hope returns, everything begins changing. A person who has hope prays differently, believes differently, lives differently, sees differently. Hope creates movement. Hope creates expectation. Hope creates courage. That is why he fought so hard to convince you that restoration was impossible. But restoration is not impossible. It is already moving toward you. My child, there are things I have been restoring that you cannot yet see. I have been restoring your strength. I have been restoring your confidence. I have been restoring your faith. I have been restoring your perspective. Before visible restoration arrives, internal restoration often begins. And that process has already started. You are not as broken as you once were. You are not as lost as you once felt. You are not as hopeless as you once seemed. Little by little, healing has been taking place. Little by little, peace has been returning. Little by little, your heart has been learning how to trust again. That is restoration. And it is preparing you for something larger, because the blessings I am bringing into your life require a healed heart to receive them fully. Now let me reveal another truth. You have spent years asking me to restore what was taken. But heaven has been preparing something greater than simple replacement. The enemy thinks restoration means returning you to where you were before. I think differently. I do not merely restore. I multiply. I redeem. I transform. I take what was meant for harm and use it to create something stronger, something wiser, something deeper, something greater. That is why your future will not simply look like your past returned. It will look like your past redeemed. There is a difference, a very important difference, because redemption creates something better than what existed before. And that is exactly what I have been preparing. My child, the reason this message is reaching you today is because your season is changing. You have spent enough time believing the enemy's lie. You have spent enough time questioning your future. You have spent enough time looking backward. Now I am calling you forward. Forward into expectation. Forward into trust. Forward into hope. Forward into restoration. The enemy wants you focused on what was taken. I want you focused on what is coming. Because what is coming carries more purpose than what was lost. What is coming carries more peace than what was lost. What is coming carries more alignment than what was lost. What is coming has my hand upon it. And when you finally see it, you will understand why certain chapters had to end. You will understand why certain people left. You will understand why certain doors closed. You will understand why certain delays happened. Not because the pain was good, but because I was working even through the pain. And there is one more truth I need to reveal. Because the restoration approaching your life is connected to something heaven has been preparing behind the scenes for far longer than you realize. Something that explains why the enemy fought so hard against you. Something that explains why your journey has been different from what you expected. Something that will change the way you see every loss you have ever experienced. Declare, my future is greater than my past, if this message is speaking to your spirit. Stay with me, my child. Because in part 4 I will reveal what heaven has been preparing behind the scenes and why the restoration coming into your life is greater than anything you have lost. My precious child, stay with me. In the last part I told you that your future is greater than your past. I told you that what is coming carries more purpose than what was lost. I told you that heaven has been preparing something behind the scenes for longer than you realize. Now it is time to reveal what that preparation has truly been about. For years, you thought the battle was about what you lost, but the battle was never just about loss. It was about positioning. The enemy understood that if he could keep your attention fixed on yesterday, you would never fully step into tomorrow. He knew that if he could keep you grieving over what was gone, you would miss what was being prepared, so he worked tirelessly to make your losses feel larger than your future. But my child, your future has always been larger. Much larger. You simply could not see it yet. Imagine standing inside a valley surrounded by mountains. From where you stand, your view feels limited. You can only see what is directly in front of you. You cannot see the roads beyond the mountains. You cannot see the opportunities beyond the horizon. You cannot see the blessings waiting on the other side. That has been your situation. You have been judging your future from inside a temporary valley. I have been viewing it from above. I see the roads you cannot see. I see the connections you cannot see. I see the opportunities you cannot see. I see the blessings you cannot see. And that is why I have been asking you to trust me. Not because I expect blind faith, but because I can see what you cannot. My child, there is something heaven has been preparing that the enemy never wanted you to discover. While you were mourning what left, I was preparing what belonged. While you were asking why certain doors closed, I was aligning doors that were actually connected to your purpose. While you were trying to recover from disappointment, I was creating opportunities that would not have been possible without that disappointment. This is why some seasons only make sense when viewed from the future. You cannot always understand a chapter while you are living inside it. Sometimes understanding comes later. Sometimes clarity arrives after the journey. Sometimes the answer appears only when enough pieces have come together. And many of those pieces are coming together now. Stay with me because this next truth is important. The restoration approaching your life is not random. It is connected to everything I have been teaching you. The patience you learned, the wisdom you gained, the discernment you developed, the strength you discovered, the faith you exercised. All of those things are connected to what comes next. Nothing was wasted. Not a single lesson, not a single tear, not a single prayer, not a single moment of waiting. The enemy wanted you to believe your struggles were meaningless. But your struggles were building capacity. Capacity for greater responsibility. Capacity for greater blessing. Capacity for greater purpose. Because what I am bringing into your life requires a stronger version of you than the one who began this journey. And that stronger version is emerging now. Have you noticed it? You do not react the same way you once did. You do not fear the same things you once feared. You do not depend on the same things you once depended on. You have changed, slowly, gradually, but significantly. The person listening to this message today is not the same person who cried through those earlier seasons. You are wiser now, stronger now, more aware of my presence now, more aware of what truly matters now. And that growth is part of the restoration. Because before I restore circumstances, I often restore perspective. Before I restore opportunities, I restore confidence. Before I restore visible blessings, I restore the heart. That work has already begun. My child, there is another reason the enemy fought so hard against you. He knew that your story would eventually become a testimony. He knew that one day the very things meant to break you would become evidence of my faithfulness. He knew that one day you would look back and see my hand in places where you once saw only pain. That is why he tried to convince you to quit before the breakthrough. That is why he tried to make you lose hope during the waiting. That is why he tried to make you believe restoration was impossible. Because if you stopped believing, you might stop moving forward. But you did not stop. You kept going. Even when you were tired. Even when you were confused. Even when you were disappointed. You kept moving. And now you are closer than you realize. Closer to healing. Closer to peace. Closer to clarity. Closer to restoration. Closer to the answers you have been seeking. I know there are still unanswered questions. I know there are still areas where you want clarity. I know there are still moments when doubt tries to return. But do not allow temporary uncertainty to cancel permanent truth. The truth is that I am working. The truth is that I am preparing. The truth is that I am restoring. The truth is that I have not forgotten you. And the truth is that what is coming carries my fingerprints all over it. My child, the season ahead will require something from you. Not perfection, not complete understanding, not flawless faith. It will require willingness, a willingness to trust again, a willingness to hope again, a willingness to believe that your story is not ending where your pain began, because the restoration I am bringing will require you to let go of old expectations. Some of the blessings coming will not arrive in the package you imagined. Some of the answers will come through unexpected doors. Some of the opportunities will appear in surprising ways. And if you remain locked onto the past, you may miss what is arriving in the present. That is why I am preparing your heart now. That is why I am speaking to you now. That is why this message reached you now, because the season is shifting. And there is one final revelation that you still need to hear. A revelation that explains why heaven allowed this entire journey. A revelation that will help you understand not only what was taken, but why your restoration will exceed your expectations. Declare, I am ready for God's restoration, if this message is speaking to your spirit. Stay with me, my child, because in part 5, I will reveal the final secret behind your restoration, and why what is coming will be greater than anything that was lost.